The Florida Gators need to improve in these areas to reach their potential in 2025.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And I can't eat solid foods, but we're going to talk about the Florida Gators for some amount of time. That's probably less than 30 minutes, but my goodness, we are back, baby. The Florida Gators start training camp this week. We're going to have a damn good time. It's football season, baby. It's football season. The first area where the Florida Gators need to improve in 2025 in order to find more success and reach their potential, because I've been very open. I think that this roster is fantastic. I do. I think that they've done a fantastic job building this roster. By the way, the shirt, courtesy of Murky Waters Production. Shout out them. Great group. And I think the first area where the Florida Gators need to improve in order to reach their potential is with DJ Lagway, right? And I know that so many Florida Gators fans are, and myself included, are enamored with DJ Lagway and what he brings to the table and what he can be. But here's the thing. The fact of the situation is he's not there yet, and that's okay. Like, I don't know where this comes in, where I criticize DJ Lagway on the show, and people are just like, he's the greatest thing to ever happen to the planet. Like, look, he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. And I think people that have been here consistently and that have been here for some of the 4 years that I've been hosting this show know that I'm not one that usually assumes success anywhere. DJ Lagway, I do. Because I know what his work ethic is like. Like, I know he's just a machine out there. I know he's going to get better. But the fact of the situation is that he's not there yet, and that's okay. DJ Lagway is the one that needs to improve, or not even that he's the one that needs to improve, right? But that he is the most important indicator of success based on his improvement because he plays the most important position in football. He plays the most important position in sports. It's as simple as that. And I do think that, he's got a few areas to improve. And that's not a bad thing. Again, I know that people get really defensive when we talk about DJ Lagway, but this isn't a critique of doubt. This is a critique of he was a true freshman last year. And for a true freshman, he played really freaking well. Like he did. And that's also, by the way, a big testament to the coaching staff, Billy Napier, Ryan O'Hara, anybody else that played a part in that recruitment, Joe Ham, whoever it may have been, that played a part in that recruitment, a part of that evaluation process. That's a big testament to them because DJ Lagway came in and was immediately ready to play SEC football. And that's freaking ridiculous. It's nuts. It's a big testament to their evaluation process. But he's got a few areas to improve. But I think that the most important one is mental processing. And this is a thing where coming out of high school, we knew that this was going to be not an issue, but an area where he was going to be a little bit behind in terms of just playing in rhythm and in the flow of an offense. Because when he was at Willis, and I was very open about this, but when he was at Willis, there were so many times where he needed to scramble around and make a play with his legs before he could make a play with his arm. But and so he's great going off script, off platform. He's doing all that, but he didn't really play in the flow of an offense, keep them on schedule, keep them on task, on target. He was doing so much to create the offense that the schedule didn't matter, right? And as you get more experience, it's easier to keep things on schedule. And as you have a better offensive line than he had at Willis and than he had last year, he's going to need to be able to have his mental processing up to par because he's going to have more time in the pocket this year. He's going to have better weapons this year. Or maybe better weapons this year because, you lost Badger, you lost DK, but you got Trey Wilson healthy. You got J. Michael Sturdivant in from UCLA. You've got the awesome freshman class from last year developing, and you've got this new freshman bunch, including a Dallas Wilson, of course, that we all love. Aiden Mizell now with experience at receiver stepping up. There's a lot to go on, but DJ Lagway's mental processing, if he gets that down, he's going to take a massive, massive leap. Like, yes, there are things that DJ Lagway needs to improve upon, such as ball security, right? Sure, not every interception was his fault. I'm not saying that, but some were. Okay, like I get it. We can say that we think he's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he still has flaws in his game. That again, I'm very confident he will develop and erase those flaws. But he needs to improve ball security. He needs to improve his underneath passing. All of that will develop with the mental game. If he picks up the mental processing game of playing quarterback, which is, again, a thing that's going to come with experience. Like, it's not a thing that you can expect him to have as a true freshman because you need experience. You need to go out there and do it. That's one of the things where you need to just go out and do it in order to be good at it. It's not just as simple as, mechanics, which, sure, DJ Lagway needs to improve upon those because his mechanics just get away from him sometimes. We've seen the passes where he gets off platform and it's a 6-yard, 7-yard hitch and he airmails it, right? We've seen that happen before. That's your mechanics getting away from you a little bit. But mental processing speed picking up, it's going to get a lot better. Reading a defense, anticipating open wide receivers at every level instead of just the deep ball, that's going to make him take a massive jump. The thing where DJ Lagway needs to improve the most upon is that mental processing. Because once he picks that up, he's going to take a huge developmental leap. He's going to look like a brand new quarterback. And I know that I'm just saying, improve this one thing, but improving that one thing will improve everything. Think about the Tulane game, right? I'm aware it was Tulane. It was a bowl game. You didn't have everybody. I'm aware of all of that. Doesn't change the fact that John Summerall, the head coach of Tulane, who's a great defensive mind and potentially going to be an SEC coach in a couple of years, doesn't change the fact that he went drop 8 coverage and DJ Lagway made some mistakes. And yes, we could talk about DJ Lagway's hamstring holding him back because when they drop 8, if you could take off running and pick up some yardage, then maybe they have to make an adjustment defensively and they can't just play drop 8 and you could try to take the ball off the top, or you could try to take the top off the defense. Sure. But again, the fact remains that some of the mistakes DJ Lagway made were purely mental errors. And that's not a bad thing for a true freshman. Again, like I'm saying, this is the thing that needs to improve the most in order for them to reach their ceiling. But I'm also saying I think it's a thing that's going to improve. I don't know if it's going to improve to, Heisman level quarterback play, but I do think it's going to improve to college football playoff quarterback play. And I think that DJ Lagway, from everything we know about him, that might be more important to him than playing Heisman level quarterback. It might. There's no other way to play this. He's a stud of a football player, right? He develops that mental processing speed and that ability to read coverages and anticipate receivers open. And his game is going to go from here to freaking, like, it's going to skyrocket because that's one thing that will improve everything. That'll improve his ball security. That'll improve his underneath passing. That'll improve so many things. Where we talked about this a lot last year, or at least I talked about this a lot last year, where the offense wasn't sustainable, right? They had their hot stretches, but it wasn't sustainable. It was deep play for a big gain, obviously, or an explosive play on the ground. But it was either the run game or deep plays. They didn't have an intermediate passing game, really, with DJ Lagway in there. And they didn't have much of an underneath passing game with DJ Lagway in there outside of screens. And again, that's okay. The harder part is having that deep passing game. And the fact that he had it and operates with the anticipation that he has, and he has the arm to make any throw he's ever going to consider making. All that just tells you once he picks up the mental processing part of it, he's going to be a monster, a beast, unstoppable. but he's just got to get there. We're going to talk about the defensive side and one thing that really needs to improve, in my opinion, for 2025 when we get back with Locked On Gators. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. And it's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year with monarchmoney.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And one of the areas that I think Florida needs to improve defensively in order to, again, reach their potential and reach their ceiling for 2025, which, by the way, their ceiling is national champions, okay? That's the least likely outcome there, but that's their ceiling. Like, this is a roster that is national championship potential. I think this is a college football playoff roster, but hey, you get hot, you improve a little bit, you develop a little bit, you can make a run. I'm not saying I think they're going to be a national championship team. I think they're going to be a college football playoff team. But hey, I'll take that. I'll be happy about that. I'll be happy to get rid of the whole, oh, well, they never made the college football playoff. I'll be happy to get rid of that conversation, okay? So I think Florida needs to improve their run defense in 2025. They were bottom third in college football of explosive runs allowed, okay? 9.1% of their runs allowed, 9.1% of the run plays that they defended were explosive plays, which was 28th percentile in the entire college football, okay? And by the way, like 9.1 sounds like an absurd number, right? It's 28th percentile, which is not a great spot to be in. But even the best of the best were still around 5%. So you're a few percentage points off, right? And it's not great again, and it's considered bad when you compare to that. But they were more so, I want to say, below average overall there than they were. And this is excluding sacks. So actual handoffs or quarterback keepers, whatever. So they were. I don't want to say bad. I don't think that they were bad, but they weren't good. They were below average, I think, there. And stats lie in some areas, right? Because you could just take a stat and not add context to it, and it really doesn't matter at that point. If you're just saying a number, it doesn't matter if you don't add context to it. Florida allowed 3.8 yards per carry in 2024 on most stat websites, right? Like Sports Reference, CFB, like all that stuff. Allowed 3.8 yards per carry in 2024. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's a pretty good number, right? Because then even if you run if you run 3 times, you would, on average, I guess, get a first down, right? 3.8 and 3.8 there, 7.6. And so another one gets your first down, right? So on average, 3.8 doesn't sound bad. But when you put it into the context of, again, on average, if teams just ran the ball every single play, they'd keep picking up first downs. Obviously, that's not how football actually works. And Florida ranked 40th or 39th in rush defense in terms of yards per carry allowed of 3.8 yards. Here's why that number is not nearly as good as it sounds. Because 3.8, again, doesn't sound bad. Florida was near the very, very top of the country in terms of sacks. And in college football, sacks count as negative rushes. And so Florida had a bunch of plays that counted as 1 rush for -6, 1 rush for -4, 1 rush for -8. Florida had a bunch of plays, again, because they were near the top of the country in sacks. They had a bunch of plays or a bunch of games, we could even say, that were, hey, by the way, the quarterback in this game had 4 carries for -23 yards. That means that you're getting those carries and that loss of yardage into that rushing total. When we look at actual yards given up versus power 4 opponents, or actual yards per carry given up against power 4 opponents, because I'm not counting Samford and I'm not counting Tulane. Every other game that Florida played was power 4. I know that people could talk about the SEC schedule all they want, and Kurt Signetti can cry about the SEC schedule all he wants, and Big Ten fans can cry about the SEC schedule all they want, and Left On Big Ten squad can cry about the SEC schedule all they want, and Chris Marler, who Florida Gators fans do not like and is the host of Locked On Gamecocks, he can talk about, the comparisons of who's playing who. The fact remains that I don't care what you think about the SEC schedule. Florida went out there last year and had 12 games scheduled at the start of the year, and 11 of them were against power 4 opponents. So Florida played an incredibly difficult schedule. I think there's a very good case that it was the most difficult schedule any team has ever played in the history of college football, okay? I will give them that absolute credit for Florida. Against those power 4 opponents, Miami averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Not a good number, right? I don't think anybody's going to say, oh, we allowed 4.6 against an air raid offense. That's what you want to do, because it's not. That means 2 carries is 9.2 yards on average. Texas A&M averaged 3.2. Good number. Mississippi State averaged 4.8. Bad number. UCF averaged 4.1. Average number. Right? All right number, we'll say. Tennessee averaged 4. All right number. And when you consider that offense is actually known for running the football and having a great offensive line, that's a pretty good number, right? Because again, context matters in all of this. Kentucky averaged 4.3 yards per carry. Georgia averaged 5.2 yards per carry, but 33 of those yards came on a wide receiver reverse. Maybe that skewed it heavily, right? Texas averaged 7.3 yards per carry. LSU averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Ole Miss averaged 5.2 yards per carry. FSU averaged 3.9 yards per carry, right? But again, context matters. A&M was, again, averaged 3.2 yards per carry. They were up big, killing the clock, running the football nonstop. They didn't even throw the ball for the final 30 minutes. It was 25 minutes of the game. Didn't even throw the football then. Florida knew they were running and started defending that better. They started just trying to hammer the run. Kentucky, Mississippi State were getting stomped the hell out, and so they were picking up runs. They were picking up yards on the ground because Florida was focused on stopping the pass and canceling out those big plays. Versus Texas, you had a bunch of defenders out, even in the secondary, and that matters a lot, especially when you talk about these plays where even the screens happened against Texas, where they got it to the flat, or in the run game, they just got out wide. And you had guys that didn't know where they were supposed to be, didn't know how they were supposed to defend things, and led to big gains. FSU's offensive line was banged up, and they had a bad quarterback, no matter who was back there, but they had a bad young quarterback. And so they weren't able to run the ball consistently, right? Ole Miss had 3 or 4 plays where they handed it to a defensive lineman, and it didn't work any time, and that brought down their yards per carry, even though they were at 5.2. So context matters, right? But at the end of the day, a bunch of those cancel out. But here's the thing. When you account for the sacks, Florida's numbers against the run look pretty good. But when you watch the film and when you look at the non-sack numbers, Florida's run defense was not very good last year. And when Florida is a team that your pass rush is going to be absolutely lethal. By the way, I think Ohio State led the country in yards per carry allowed, and it was 2.3 yards per carry. Good pass rush, good run defense. When you're Florida and you're a team that's supposed to be built on getting after the quarterback at this point, that's the expectation, right? The expectation is that how Florida ended the year rushing the passer is how they should rush the passer the entire year this year. When you take that into account, 3.8 is not a great number. Because while you're getting all those sacks and you're bringing down that yards per carry, that means that the run game is actually probably averaging 4.5 yards per carry-ish, maybe a little bit more than that. Run defense needs to improve. Because if you have good run defense on early downs, you force them into a 2nd and 8, they're most likely going to throw the ball. You got a great pass rush. You can pin your ears back, get up to the quarterback. 3rd and long, pin your ears back, get up to the quarterback. You need to improve your run defense so that your pass defense and your pass rush can just focus on killing whoever is in the backfield. Florida's run defense improves, and they're going to destroy quarterbacks. And remember, like Coach Bass says, quarterback can't see with tears in his eyes. And so that's a big focal point for me, at least, for the Florida Gators in 2025, is that you got to improve that run defense, and your pass rush will help you a ton there. If you hold teams to a natural 3.8 yards per carry, that's honestly, I'm cool with that. A natural 3.8. So not including sacks. But instead, obviously, that's not where you were at all. But if you hold them to a natural 3.8 yards per carry, and then your pass rush works the way it's going to work, you're going to hold teams to 3 yards per carry total statistically or less. That's what you got to do. That's how you become a fantastic team that can make a run in the playoffs. And again, Tennessee last year had a fantastic rush defense. UCF had the best rush offense in the country. Tennessee had a great rush offense. UCF had the best rush offense in the country going into the game against Florida, and Florida pummeled the absolute crap out of them. You just got to do it consistently, and then you're cooking with gas right there. We got one more thing to talk about for the Florida Gators to really improve and really reach their ceiling. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. We've all been there, right? You log on early, you wait forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see, right? I have a couple of friends that wanted to go see Tyler, the Creator, under the Brooklyn Bridge last week. I don't know. But they were trying to go see Tyler, the Creator, under the Brooklyn Bridge. They waited in a queue for, I think it was like 14 minutes, got into like the, hey, here you go. And there were no seats. There were no spots available, no tickets for general admission available. It sucks, right? Live music is about making memories. Like I had last year, I've said it, I went to 5 concerts and they were all incredible memories. I went to my first mosh pit, which was nuts. Not really my style, but it was nuts and it was a good time, but not something I intend on doing again. I went to a Biley Funk, which is just awesome. Like it's great. Live music is about the experience. It's awesome. That's where Game Time comes in. Every ticket I bought was Game Time, and Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever, and prices drop as you get closer to showtime. And you could save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And look at that. Look at that. Mouth surgery less than a week ago, and we're still going, baby. The Florida Gators need to improve on their consistency in 2025 because this has been a thing, honestly, the whole time since Billy Napier got here. Florida has not been able to show up week in and week out under Billy Napier. You can go to any season, and there's those times. Hell, go to 2022. You start the year against ranked Utah. You beat them. And then you play Kentucky, and you crap the bed. And I will say this. I love Anthony Richardson. I do. I think that he was one of the best quarterback prospects to look at when he was coming out of Florida. I understand why he went 4th overall. His film didn't justify it. His athletic profile didn't. His arm did. He was the kind of guy where, like, hey, this is either going to go really good or really bad. Like, he's not going to be a backup quarterback. He's either going to become a starting quarterback that's really good, or he's going to be out of the league probably. That's honestly, those are the outcomes. Like, that's the variance of what Anthony Richardson's going to be. Because if you get him to click, he's going to be really good. And if you don't get him to click, then he's not worth it. If you went just off of film, he probably would have gone undrafted. Probably. But he had the physical traits to say, hey, we can project to him being great. But like, if you're talking about what he was, if 2022 Anthony Richardson was a finished product, he's going undrafted. but he wasn't a finished product, and that's the beauty of the NFL draft. But a lot of 2022, you can blame on Anthony Richardson. Kentucky game was so bad. I remember going not live after because we weren't doing lives yet, but we had a Locked On Now afterward for about a minute, and I was like, just maybe it was the USF game. I was like, just go to the option because he can't hit anything passing the ball right now. Just change it, right? You look at the Vanderbilt game. That was an awful game for everybody. It was one of the worst. It was bad. A lot of it you can blame on Anthony Richardson. Sure, not a lot of it, but a few of the games you could blame on Anthony Richardson. 2023 comes, Utah, they come out and just piss the bed. That's what they did. They just played awful football against Utah. Awful. They find a little bit of a rhythm, destroy McNeese, beat Tennessee, beat Charlotte in an ugly game, but you won the game, and then Kentucky comes and you just get pummeled. Beat Vanderbilt, beat South Carolina in an incredible comeback win at South Carolina, and then you lose 5 games in a row to end the year, including Arkansas was like 2-8 or something like that when you played them. Lost all those games at the end of the year. Couldn't find a rhythm. 2024, you start the year getting destroyed at home by Miami, destroy Samford, face Texas A&M and backup quarterback at the time, Marcel Reed. And again, like we mentioned earlier, like they didn't even throw the ball for the final 25 minutes of the game. They just ran it on you, and it worked every time. You destroy Mississippi State. You handle UCF. Again, handedly win that game. Tennessee, you show up and play a great game, but you lose in overtime, which I think is a pure coaching loss. I do. I think you should have gone for it at 2 for 2. You should have gone for 2 at the end of the regulation. And you either win there or you lose there. But you definitively end it there. Again, we can get into the logistics of it all, but if you're going to say you're analytically oriented, analytics tell you to go for it there, and your gut should have told you to go for it there. That's really it. Your gut should have told you, hey, they're going to score touchdowns before we score touchdowns. We need to go for it there. Then you come out against Kentucky, and you destroy them. Georgia, you play well. Texas was just an awful game, and you really found a stride at the end of the year. You really found it. But now it's 2025, and you can't do this. We're either an amazing team or we're middle of the pack. You can't do that in 2025 if you're going to reach your ceiling. And this is, I will say also, this is the 1 year of Billy Napier's career at Florida, at least, that he's got the ramp-up schedule. Starts with LIU, starts with Long Island University, Brookville. FCS opponent. You start there. Then you get USF, Group of 5 opponent. Then you go into Power 4 play. This is the first year in Billy Napier's career at Florida, Billy Napier's tenure, where he gets to gradually get into this. I know everybody wants to see a 50-point blowout against Long Island. I want to see a 50-point blowout against Long Island. Odds are we're probably not going to see that, and that's okay with me. That's going to be your first year. That's going to be your first game. If you don't blow everybody out to start the year, that's okay with me. Win games. Win games handedly the way you should, but beat Long Island, beat USF, go into SEC play, and be ready to go be a well-oiled machine. But here's the thing. After Long Island, after USF, you only have Power 4 opponents in 2025 after that. Because you're in the SEC, right? You're going to play, again, especially after 2 games are gone, you got 10 left. You're going to play your conference games, and then you got your 2 ACC games. So you've got the right to warm up and get into the season, but you cannot break that stride. And there's some games where you can maybe take the gas off and maybe have a little bit of a down game and still walk away victorious, right? Mississippi State's going to be that. I think Kentucky's going to be awful this year. So there's some games where you can have a little bit of a down game and still win. I'm not saying you can't have a down game. I'm saying you can't go from we look like an elite team, because Florida at the end of the year last year, that was college football playoff football. That's what Florida was doing. Because last year at the end of the year, Florida was going up against teams that were in the college football playoff or borderline college football playoff teams. Florida was beating Georgia before DJ Lagway got hurt, right? And I'm not the type to say that Florida should have won that game or Florida would have won that game if DJ Lagway stayed healthy. I do think they would have, but I'm not going to definitively say that they would have won that game with Lagway. That's ridiculous to say. He got hurt in the second quarter and it was a 2-possession game, not even 2-touchdown game. But you were winning that game. Then you played Texas without Lagway, which, by the way, I know people keep talking about you're on your backup quarterback. You're on QB3. But again, I think the 49-17 was a ridiculous game. I thought that coaching failed. Aiden Warner, they asked him to do things he shouldn't have been asked to do as a guy starting his first game ever against Texas at Texas. I think they were asking him to do things that he wasn't capable of doing at the moment. You played LSU, and you ended that potential college football playoff run for LSU. You did that, Florida. You ended that. You played Ole Miss. You ended that college football playoff potential run that Ole Miss was on. You lost to Tennessee, but they were a college football playoff team. And you lost in a game where your starting quarterback got hurt, your backup quarterback made great plays on the road in what many people talk about as one of the hardest places to play on the road at night. And you almost won that game. And I know, almost doesn't matter. But when we're talking about context, it does. You've played the gauntlet. You were playing college football playoff football, quality football. You can do that this year. You can. If you continue that, you can do that. You can ease into it with LIU and USF, and then you're going to hit the ground running. But you can't play college football playoff quarterback or college football playoff level play and then play low-level SEC football. Even your floor needs to be still pretty damn good. And if you do that, you're going to win a lot of games, and you're going to make the college football playoff, and you're going to make a run potentially. But you got to do those things. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free as the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.